Hello and welcome to Monkey Knife Fight Live. Folks, I'm Connor Rowntree, and today I'm joined by AJ MMA Betting, and that's how you find him on Twitter. AJ, exciting card, UFC 265, Derrick Lewis versus Cyril Gane. Everything is bigger in Texas, including this main event. Over 500 pounds of man muscle being thrown around. Absolutely insane fight. We're talking before the show about the possible ways that this fight could end. Derrick Lewis via knockout or Cyril Gane, basically by picking apart Lewis. One thing that I alluded to was the size of the octagon. They're not fighting in the apex, so Derrick Lewis, it'll be a lot harder to get Cyril Gane up against the cage, and Cyril Gane will be able to use his cardio and get on that bike and move around. Because of that, and then because it's in Houston, I expect a lot of strikes early. Derrick Lewis said it. He said he's going to come out firing. He wants to put on a show, win or lose. So I like the more on the strikes because I actually think that neither of these guys I don't see either of these guys knocking out the other one that early. I think they're both super tough. Obviously, Gane is undefeated, never knocked out. Derrick Lewis, good luck knocking him out in front of the Houston crowd. AJ, how do you see the main event going? And also, welcome to the show. There's my rant. There's my rant for today.
It just goes to show how passionate you are about getting right into this main event. I've never heard you break down a main event right away, but good to be here. Thrilled for the card. Good card from top to bottom, as we talked about. And we're actually going to kick off our show here with a disagreement. I'm actually going to go under and under on the main events. I see it a little bit differently. I do acknowledge that Lewis is very tough. As we could see there, he's playing possum after getting hit from a body shot by Junior Dos Santos. But him getting hurt often does concern me. The Travis Brown fights. I don't even know what I just saw right there, but that was pretty cool.
Something was elevating.
Yeah. Anyway, though, but the way I see this fight is, Gane is better than him everywhere, and maybe Lewis could knock him out. He's got some more power. Like you said, he's fighting in front of the home crowd, the Houston crowd, and the roof is going to blow off this place when Bruce Buffer reads his name when we're announcing the fighters. So I think that either guy's capable of hurting each other. I also think that they'll be very respectful of one another's striking threats. And while it can go extended, I lean that it won't. I think we see an under here. I think somebody probably gets knocked out, and I think it's actually going to be Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, see, the thing is for me, it's just Cyril Gane, the way he moves, and he likes to throw that, and he doesn't necessarily have that killer instinct. He doesn't chase the finish, right? From what we've seen in the UFC, at least he likes, if he knows he's in control, he's comfortable staying with that status quo, kind of that conservative, idealistic, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I'm dominating this guy by staying on the outside, not engaging, not touching, keeping that Muay Thai stance in that distance, he's okay with that. Yes, his chin does stay up and on a straight line with that typical Muay Thai boxing, but he's always moving and he's always on the outside. So I could see him picking apart Derrick Lewis, and then in tight, I could see a lot of body shots just adding up. And that's why I think that the fight goes a little longer. And that's why I have to take the more, because it's not significant strikes. It's just the overall strikes. And that's why I like the more. I understand the less from you, AJ. And I agree with you. I think Cyril Gane is definitely going to win this fight. As much as I love Derrick Lewis, Cyril Gane is the more well-versed fighter. He's better on the feet. If he wants to take this fight to the ground, we were alluded to it before the show. We mentioned Daniel Cormier and how Daniel Cormier was able to control Lewis on the ground. Obviously, Cyril Gane not on that class, but just something to think about going into the fight. And Derrick Lewis obviously has that one hitter or quit it power. So that's really his only path to victory that I see, because if Gane survives, he's going to be dancing around the octagon. We've seen him do it for 5 rounds. We've seen him land over 100 strikes in back-to-back fights. And I think Derrick Lewis will feed off the crowd, and I think he'll hang in there for at least 2, maybe 3 rounds. And I think there'll be a lot of volume while Derrick Lewis is in there, because he'll be pushing the issue as previously stated.
Do you guys have more or less on Lewis? So I know we could split on Gane, but what was the more or less for Lewis?
I think we're split on both, because I just think the fight's going to go a little longer, and that's why I like the more. And AJ thinks it's going to be closed, but we both like Cyril Gane. So Something to think about, folks. Whatever you like. AJ had his excellent point. Look, Gane's got the abilities. He's got all the tools to knock out Derrick Lewis. I'd just ride, and maybe a bit of the momentum from the home crowd on Lewis. And remember, I just did say I am a Derrick Lewis fan, so there may be a little bias in there. Check out your buy-ins right there. Pays 2.5 times on Monkey Knife Fight, whatever you're comfortable with. My bias or AJ's professional opinion. Scroll down, hit what you want, and you're in to win once you hit submit. AJ, we got right into the main event there. I was so excited to break it down. I'm sure it's going to come up again in our Knockout Kings. And let's get into our next fight. What do you want to look at next on the fighting side?
So you brought up the main event. I'm actually going to take us to the very beginning of the card at the very first prelim, and that is Johnny Munoz versus Jamie Simmons here. We were talking beforehand, and this is actually one that, to my knowledge, we do agree on. You know, we like the less and less here. We think that Munoz basically has Simmons outclassed on the ground. We think that he could impose his superior pedigree, a black belt in jiu-jitsu is Munoz, a multi-time national champion, and he really passes the eye test, even in that debut. He took it on very short notice I applauded his heart. He wants to get the fight to the ground, pass guard, and finish in a dominant position. And even on the feet, I actually think he's got Simmons' number there. Simmons is coming off a knockout loss. He's been finished in all of his losses on the regional scene. That's the type of fighter that Simmons strikes me as. He's a power-based fighter, and he wants the fight where Munoz wants it, but Munoz is just better than him at it. And that's why we see Munoz here as such a big favorite. I mean, look, whenever you got a guy that's only got one fight in the UFC, there's some unknowns there. Certainly he's a young fighter, but one guy I think here belongs in the UFC a bit longer term, and Simmons, I think he's got a ways to go to really sharpen up his skill set and stay with MMA's top promotion here. But I do think it's a skill mismatch, and it even covers the outcome of, you know, what if Simmons does land the knockout shot? He's not the most comfortable striker, but I would think it would come from a big shot on the feet, and he can maybe finish the fight early. I mean, that's essentially how all of his wins have come by, first round finish. Otherwise, I think that Munoz should control where this fight goes, and I probably think he does so in a dominant and early fashion.
Yeah, I think you broke that down in the most polite way possible. I'll go out and say I think Munoz is just going to wipe the floor with Simmons. Simmons, his best tactic really is his wrestling. If he tries to take down Munoz, he's going to get submitted. It's just that simple. I agree with you. It's going to be first round. And if he wants to stand, I agree with you again. Munoz has the better. He's just more comfortable on the feet. Simmons doesn't look like he's evolved that part of his game enough. So there really isn't a path to victory from Simmons other than the knockout. And I don't see Munoz putting himself in that situation. From what I saw on his tape, he's got an extremely high fighter IQ, dips in and out with his takedowns, times it nicely. So I like the less there. You like the less there. Less and less. First round stoppage for Munoz. Let's punch it in, folks, on Monkey Knife Fight. Very first fight of the night. AJ, loving it. Loving the momentum. What should we take a look at next?
Let's take a look over at the Draco Rodriguez and Vince Morales fight, if you don't mind.
Very interesting one.
Yeah, and it's another fight where, you know, people on pay-per-view cards, they want to look at the fighters where there's more intrigue, there's more name value. But one of the biggest edges I like to get is looking at these earlier fights, the ones that aren't getting as much attention for that reason we talked about. And so going along with that point, I do think that we see a finish here. They both, I think, are capable of finishing one another. You know, seeing Rodriguez knocked out quickly by Zahabi was a big concern that I had. Zahabi, not a big power puncher. I know that Morales isn't the most dangerous guy in the weight class, but he has shown some power. He hurt Benito Lopez. He hurt Domingo Pilardi. But most importantly, beyond just like a low kick, I think Rodriguez is pretty screwed on the feet here. I think Morales is a better technical striker. I like his volume more. I think he's more defensively sound, has better footwork as well. And, you know, it always concerns me with a fighter getting knocked out and then they have only taken so much time to recover. I would prefer fighters take anywhere from 6 months to a year, preferably a year after they go in there and fight again. So I have serious durability concerns about Rodriguez here. But on the flip side, if Rodriguez has his way, I've seen Morales look vulnerable on the ground, a la his Contender Series fight, for instance, just didn't do a good job of defending the choke. Rodriguez, that seems to be where he excels as a submission grappler. He seems reasonably dangerous. So I'm actually going to go less and less here, just based on the fact that I think it probably there probably is a finish here and it probably gets done early. So
yeah, I think that's a really, really good breakdown there. Rodriguez, his striking defense comes in at just 26%. And as you said, he gets absolutely rocked, knocked out by a good Canadian boy there in Zahabi in that last outing. Woo! And yeah, as I said, as you said, pardon me, I think that his best path to victory is chasing the takedowns. And I actually think, from what I've seen of Morales, is he's actually very good at popping back up to his feet. When you get him on his back, he's very controllable, but he's actually very good at scrambling from what I've seen on tape, and he can pop back to his feet quick. So I think that's a very viable upset too with the finish from Vince Morales. So I agree with you. I think it's less and less. And I think Morales just clips Rodriguez with one of those shots because, look, when you have a weak chin or just when you're chinny, let's say, and you are only have a 26% striking defense, meaning you're going to get hit and you can't take a lot of hits. It's not going to take 62.5 strikes or 69.5 strikes to put you down. I think that's a great pick, AJ. I like the less and less there too. So folks, you can head on down, buy whatever you go. You can go from 2 to 250, I believe right now on Monkey Knife Fight, and go down and hit submit. AJ, anything else that you want to look at?
Let's shift on over to the Chiesa and Luque fight. I think that's a very, it's the elephant in the room is a spider is crawling right in front of my camera. That is something new.
Oh my God.
Let me set you over here, little guy.
Wait, are you just holding on to the spider?
I was holding on to his web. I'm not a huge, oh man. Yeah, I'm just gonna
straight nightmare for my life. Just I would have a panic attack. I'd light your computer on fire.
Oh, he's not exactly a big fella, but he's lingering around here. I think I should be okay. First time on stream that's happened.
Anderson Silva stopped by.
Yeah, that's exactly. Awesome. Luque and Chiesa, though, right? I mean, high profile fight. It seems really binary, right? I mean, Connor and I were talking beforehand. Chiesa does a very good job of making sure you can't hit him. He absorbs 1.7 significant strikes per minute, and it's because he's a stand all the way on the outside type of guy, or he's trying to go up to you and clinch with you. He wants to get his arms around you and hold you in the body lock. And he's very smothering with his control and his takedowns. And so Luque is the better striker. I don't think there's much of a debate there, but the reason why these strikes are so high is because Luque is historically a volume guy, but matchups are everything. When we look at this, styles make fights. And when you look at Chiesa, how he fights, I think that's going to spell a less for that 76.5 strike mark for Luque, considering I actually think that Chiesa does get the takedowns here, does get some control time, and perhaps wins the fight down the stretch. And on the flip side, I actually do like the less for Chiesa as well. When I watch him grapple, he's more so a control guy. I mean, like, yeah, he lands some ground and pound, but it's not like on the level of, Habib Nurmagomedov type guy. I know that 56.5 isn't the highest margin, but I think that his priority here is going to control Luque. I think if he opens up for some ground and pound, that could leave Luque some opportunities to scramble back to his feet, and where he would be at risk of losing position and maybe getting hurt. But I do like the less and less here. High profile fight, but it could be kind of a snoozer if Chiesa is able to get his grappling going here.
I think you got it dead on. And I think there's the other side of it too, where it could really turn out to be one of the fights of the night too, with the idea of grappling and the mixture of the striking. It's just, as I think you really hit the nail on the head. And it's that Michael Chiesa is so hard to hit. And we were going through the statistics before the show. And that, I mean, he's absorbed less than 10 significant strikes, I think 3 times in his last 5 fights. I mean, he got 12 against Neil Magny, only 14 against Rafael Dos Anjos. He absorbed 7 against Diego Sanchez and 5 against Carlos Condit. And all of those fights went past the first round. To give you an idea, the Neil Magny fight was 12. He absorbed 12 significant strikes over 5 rounds. So he's really, really good at not getting hit. And as you said, he doesn't do a whole lot of ground and pound. He only landed 24 significant strikes with 4 takedowns across that 5-round fight with Magny. So I like the less and less here too, because I also don't think that Luque has the class of a Neil Magny on the feet. He doesn't have the length and the reach and the strength that just comes with that Neil Magny would have naturally. And I think Chiesa chases the finish. I think he's looked excellent since moving up to welterweight. Obviously had the 1 loss against Anthony Pettis in his first fight up here, but since moving up, he's won 4 straight now, and he looks good, and he looks really big, and he looks comfortable. And that's what I think is really important, especially when you're a grappler. So I like him to get his hands on him. I think you nailed it, less and less. And I think there will be a finish in this fight. And I think Chiesa gets the submission victory. For another underdog pick there, AJ. We're all about the underdogs. Another fight that we have to check in on. I also think that is potential to be fight of the night if it does get up to a good old-fashioned scramble. Another fight that I'd like to check in on is the co-main event. Jason, if you could take us to Jose Aldo, legend of the game. Munoz has never been finished, lands over 5 significant strikes per minute. Aldo, however, has a 5-inch reach advantage And something that I noted today before we came on air to AJ that I was super impressed with and Jason was Jose Aldo hit weight and he looked healthy doing it for the first time I think I've ever seen him do it, which means he's probably going to come in with decent cardio. Obviously, he's not known for going the 5 rounds. He gasses, but I could see, I don't know if either of these guys are going to get knocked out. I could see a late knockout. AJ, how do you see this fight going? Because this is just a banger between two guys that love to strike and stand in the pocket. Obviously, Aldo with the smaller clip, more of the power, and Pedro Munoz more of the forward pressure. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, should be a fun action fight. Well, a finish is possible here. I think it most likely goes the distance. I'll be honest, I've overrated Munoz's power in the past in terms of like his hands. Went 5 rounds with Edgar, couldn't really hurt him. Edgar's shown some questionable durability these days. More so when I see Munoz hurt guys, it's with that stabbing front kick, it's with his low kicks. And while it's possible that he hurts Aldo, I just think that Aldo, like you said, he's got the length advantage here. He's a better technical striker, more defensively sound. And Aldo, he'll have a lot of opportunities here to land hard on Munoz. Munoz does not move his head all that much. He does have a great chin, no doubt about it. And he does block punches with his arms, but Munoz forces action fights. He will come forward, he'll throw in high volume, and he'll absorb in high volume. And I actually, if I were to take a lean here, I do like the over on both guys. Aldo, I think he's set at that low because he historically doesn't produce the most volume, but Munoz forces that sort of fight in fighters where they where the volume comes out of them. And I pardon me, not pardon my French, but pardon me. I actually do like the over on Aldo, but actually the under on Munoz. I actually don't think that Munoz will land at that high of a frequency, considering Aldo, at least while he's got some gas in the tank, like Connor said, is still defensively sound. He still will be at a range, at least early, where he could hit Munoz, but Munoz won't hit him as high of a clip. But as the fight kind of wears on, Munoz should have some success with his attrition-based style. So fun fight. I think the Munoz is a little bit too high, even though I think he could get around 80 or so, but then the Aldo is too low, considering how often he'll be able to hit Munoz here.
I actually have the more and more in this because of Munoz's output. I just think, as you said, I think he's going to pull Aldo into the fight, try to get away from that 5-inch reach advantage and try to get inside. So that 5 inches is more of a 0-inch reach advantage, getting close and land maybe a bunch of shots to the body, a lot of softer strikes that aren't necessarily significant strikes. So I like the more and more on both of that, like the main event for myself. And can we just go to take a look at one more fight, Jason, that I just that AJ and I talked about before we came on air, but I love this fight. Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill. Well, I don't actually love the fight inside the octagon. I love how high the lion is on Monkey Knife Fight. Well, I do think this fight goes to distance. If you watch the first fight between these two ladies, Tisha Torres took down Angela Hill and just won the fight. Angela Hill does not have the greatest takedown defense. Well, I'm extremely impressed with how far she's come as a mixed martial artist, and her boxing is incredible. Her takedown defense still isn't there. Ashley Yoder took her down at will. Ashley Yoder, not the best ground game or takedown offense, if we're being fully honest there. So, well, Angela Hill did get the win there. Tisha Torres was able to take her down twice in that first fight. And, the strikes just were, both of them went under their strike lines on Monkey Knife Fight. I think it was 88-66 in favor of Tisha Torres in the first one, a 3-round affair. I see it going much similar to the same, and I like less and less in this one. AJ, how do you see this one going down?
I see it a bit differently. I think that the less on Torres is definitely fair. While Hill, similar to what we talked about with Munoz, she does force a action fight. She is willing to come forward. Her defense hasn't been tremendous throughout the years, but it has been a bit better. Absorbs a lot of strikes per minute, but also lands a lot of strikes per minute. Hill will have the reach advantage here. But on the flip side, Torres, to your point, she is the more willing kick thrower. So like, even though Hill has got some arms reach on her, she throws better straight punches. Torres could fire off some kicks at range and perhaps touch up Hill, maybe her leg. I think it's going to be contested on the feet mostly. I think that's going to be where the winner is determined. I do think that Torres is the party more likely to get the takedowns, but they won't come easy. And then also, it's very likely to go distance, right? They're both ultra tough. They're not the most dangerous finishers. And so when I try to picture this fight playing out in my head, I think that they're both going to land in high volume. both going to be contested on the feet. However, I think that Hill is going to edge it, and she's going to actually go over that 86.5 mark. And then Torres is actually going to go under that 114.5 mark. Similar to our Cheyenne buys under logic last week, when she had a fairly high strike amount, maybe not in the way we thought, but we going into the video, we just thought that this is just way too high. It's based on her reputation, what she did in the Contender Series. But Angela Hill is a much better opponent than the last two fighters that Torres has faced. And so I think they're both going to test each other. I think it will be a close fight, 29-28 type of decision on the scorecards, where I think Hill is going to edge it out.
Yeah, let's just I like the opinion. I think it's going to be a great fight again. I just see Tisha Torres being too good with her ground control. And that's why I have to favor Tisha Torres in that one. I like how we're going back and forth with that. It's always fun when we have a little bit of disagreement on the show. Jason, before we do our Knockout Kings contest, to get in to win your share of $5,000 because of the rollover prize and because everything's bigger in Texas, can we take a look at Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny? Song Yadong is awesome. He's 23 years old, training with Uriah Faber now, 16-5-1, and the kid throws hands, throwing over 4.3 significant strikes per minute. Casey Kenny lands over 4.5 significant strikes per minute. This is going to be an unbelievable fight, folks, and I couldn't be more excited for it. And I think both of these guys go over on their monkey knife fight strike lines, because I think this fight goes long, and I think these guys go out and they bang, and it's going to be awesome. AJ, what do you think? I kind of ranted on that one, but there you go. That's my pick. Boom.
Agree. I mean, yeah, I know Song is dangerous, but I always favor the durability of these fighters if something's got to give. Fighters with granite durability historically could hold up to power punchers. Not every time, but a lot of times. Kenny, I've never really seen him hurt. He looked briefly hurt by Bermudez, but beyond that, not terribly. They both fight at reasonable paces. There could be some cage work in here, some takedowns, although I think it's going to, for the most part, take place standing. Kenny has a wrestling and judo background, but when I watch him fight, he wants to strike for the most part. And so they could brawl. I know that Yadong and Veras fight was fun. The Nathaniel Wood and Casey Kenny fight comes to mind, where there was a lot of strikes traded on both sides. So I really think you're onto something here with the over. Probably goes long, probably gets contested on the feet, where both guys are okay taking some damage as well as giving some out.
I love it. And we agree on that one, folks. So go down. If you want to follow AJ and I into the fray in this one, because that's actually one of my picks for fight of the night. I just think you nailed it on the head. Kenny's got the background if he wants to take it down, but he does like to stand and bang, and Song Yadong will answer that bell every single time. Let's get into the Knockout Kings now, AJ. Give me your 3 Knockout Kings picks. I already heard you say Cyril Gane. He is one of mine because I do see that being a path to victory, and I do not give – nope, wrong one. That's Derrick Lewis. Nope. That's just that's the hometown pick. As much as I want Derrick Lewis to win this fight, you got to go with Cyril Gane. I do think Derrick Lewis will be carried into the later rounds with the crowd, but I still think if Cyril Gane's going to win this fight, and he could finish it. So, I don't think it'll be a submission. It'll be due to strikes. AJ, who else do you want to add to your Knockout Kings?
So I'm going to go with one obvious and one not so obvious. So my obvious one is Alonzo Menafield, a chalkier option. The odds suggest that he's likely to win inside the distance. A big athletic guy. Ed Herman is 40 years old. He's very hittable at this stage. He's been hurt so many times. We've seen the Rodriguez fight most notably recently, where he's almost finished there twice. Also finished by Brunson and Krylov. Menafield certainly has power in his hands. I could see him getting the knockout. And to round it out, so Gane, Menafield, and last but not least, talking about our point earlier, actually Vince Morales. And this is off the board because, again, he's in a pick 'em fight. He may lose, but I also think that if he does win, there's a decent chance it's by knockout. We have questions about the durability of Rodriguez, and if we think that Morales is the better striker, and he does have at least some level of power in his hands, he could go out here and get a knockout, certainly. And this is a guy in Morales who's far more tested at the UFC level, tested against better level of opposition as fights extend. I like those advantages that he holds in his favor, and his back is really up against the wall here. So he needs a win. Perhaps he does so in spectacular fashion.
I think those are 3 great picks. And we alluded to it earlier. I think that's the route to victory because of how often Rodriguez gets hit and the power of the guys that previously knocked him out. A guy that I also want to touch on is Miles Johns. He's 11-1 in the UFC. He's got a knockout win on his UFC resume. Anderson Dos Santos has been knocked out 3 times. I think Miles Johns, he's got the wrestling background to be able to get this back up to the feet if it goes low. And on the feet, he's just the better striker. And I think he's a really exciting prospect. So that is my third pick. If Vince doesn't sell you, put in Miles Johns because he is the prospect of one of the most fun guys to watch. But yeah, Cyril Gane in there as well. And yeah, that's a great knockout kings, folks. And this is an exciting card. Any notes on the card, AJ? What are you most looking forward to on this card?
Just having all the fights assembled. It's nice to have a good card that is intact up until we have fight time here. But it goes to show, like, we could have, just like for last week, for instance, we could have a card that maybe is people are like, on paper, but it could still deliver. And so I'm looking for this card following through, because not only is it a great card on paper, that could in turn mean that it's a great card, an even better card that we see it go down. In terms of like the most forward fight that I'm looking forward to, it's got to be Munoz and Aldo. I know that we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but this is just the obvious pick for fight of the night for me. I mean, what boring fight is Pedro Munoz, and he's going to force a firefight. That should be fun. That is my candidate to win, front runner candidate to win performance bonuses right there.
Yeah, that's going to be a banger. There's so many great fights. I think the Chiesa fight is going to be a great matchup of styles, clash of styles. Remember, folks, Knockout Kings contest, 4 viable options for you. Cyril Gane, Vince Morales, Miles Johns, and Alonzo Menefield. It's a $5 minimum entry. All 3 of your fighters score a knockout, and you're in to win your share of $5,000 from all the good folk over at Monkey Knife Fight. AJ, thank you so much for joining us today on Monkey Knife Fight Live. Folks, I'm Connor Rowntree, and remember to hit it hard.